Good evening. Welcome to the River Falls Municipal Utility Advisory Board meeting for June 18th, 2018. Could we have a roll call, please?
Mashevsky.
Here.
Odine. Richter.
Here.
Toom.
Here.
Swanson.
Here.
Spafford.
Here.
Wells Mangold.
Here.
Looking for approval of the minutes from the May 21st meeting.
Move to approve the minutes. Second.
All those in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. Minutes are approved. Now is the time where we have public comments. If anybody from the public would like to step up and speak, now would be the time. Councilman? No? All right. All right, moving on to the consent agenda, which is the acknowledgement of the West Central Wisconsin Biosolids Facility Commission minutes and the Powerful Choices Committee meeting minutes. For approval on the agenda?
Move for approval of consent agenda. Second.
All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same. Consent agenda is approved. And moving on to new business, the first item is the election of the Utility Advisory Board officers for the next year.
Yeah, we need a president and a secretary. Dwayne Peterson was a secretary, and Adam, of course, is the president. So what we do at this time every year is we elect new officers. And Adam, you would then open the floor up for nominations, and then somebody would vote to close nominations and do a vote.
Just do one. Should we do them one at a time?
Just do them one at a time.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Open for nominations for the president position.
Second.
Just vote.
Is there any more nominations from the floor? You have to do this 3 times. Any more nominations from the floor?
No.
Thank you. And now you would vote.
All those in favor of myself as president, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same. I'm president.
And now you do the same for secretary. And the secretary's role is pretty easy. Lene does take the minutes, but you have to sign off on things and kind of pay attention and okay the minutes. So,
Opening up for nominations for the secretary of the board.
I nominate Patrick.
I'll second that.
Any other nominations at all? All those in favor of Patrick as the new secretary, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same. Patrick is the new secretary.
and our slate has been filled. Thank you.
Next item is, in the packet, is item number 3, which is the resolution regarding review of wastewater treatment plant compliance maintenance annual report.
It's in your packet. Ron is here just to talk a few minutes about the CMAR and what's inside, and then answer any questions you might have. Thanks, Ron. Ron Groth, Wastewater and Water Superintendent. Thanks for coming.
Good evening. I think it's pretty much the same as what you're used to seeing. Pretty much the same as last year. I will cover the 1 point. Everything's an A, as you can see on there, except we had the 1B. That's for influent loading for BOD and ammonia. Well, it's actually just for BOD. But it's kind of the same issue as last year. So we had 5 occurrences where we exceed our influent BOD, so that's the water coming into the plant. So we're still able to treat down to permitted levels, well below permitted levels, but DNR sets you have to have an engineered design for the plant, and so many pounds is what our plant is currently designed at. But so what are we doing, I guess, to resolve that in the future? What we looked at was initially last year we were looking at getting the plant re-rated. We knew it was doing better than what we were showing, what the engineered design was. We were outperforming that. So can we get the engineered design bumped up? So we had that looked at. We went through DNR regulations. If you use their criteria, no, we're just about, it's pretty much right on with what, their design is. So even though we're getting better treatment than what we know we should, we still can't use those numbers in our CMAR. So then the next step was, okay, let's look long term. What do we do in the future? We know our BOD loadings are going to increase. Let's come up with a 20-year plan and see what we can do. So First step was to decide what type of aeration would we go to, what systems are out there. So we went and we looked at various systems, what would make the most sense. I think we probably came to a conclusion that diffusers and submersible mixers. So we'd have a 50 horsepower blower, we'd have a grid of diffusers, just look like kind of long tubes with a membrane, and they shoot air through them, and that air comes out the membrane, and it's called fine bubble because it's a real fine stream. And then the submersible mixers to keep the ditch rotating. So I think that's the direction we're going to head. The next step, and that has been put in the CIP for 19 and 20, is to get that engineered and then proceed with construction of doing one of the ditches. And then that plan would take us through the next 20 years of development. So.
You just kind of just build on that, just a couple things, Ron. So BOD, biological oxygen demand. So when we got the plant re-rated, really what I would like to call the bottleneck, the part of the plant that it just, with our current setup, is unable to handle the increasing influent into the plant, and that's we're not able to introduce enough oxygen into the product. So that's why we got a couple of the 5 instances where we had too much product coming in and we weren't we weren't able to introduce enough oxygen. That's correct, Ron?
Right. You can only, you need so many pounds of oxygen to treat the BOD coming in and the ammonia. So, and theoretically or engineered design, we weren't able to achieve that, but we actually were because it showed in our treatment.
Yeah. So, and then, too, you say, well, you might be thinking, why are you getting more product onto the plant? And Ron has been seeing higher loads. You can tell when the university's on and when the university's out. So that during the school year, you can definitely notice now the school loading. Is that accurate?
Right. If you, and it's in your packets. You have your dashboards in there, and it'll show influent loadings, and you can see those increasing. This time of year, we're okay. Yeah, college, but then also the development with, more houses that go in, that just adds. Every house that goes in adds to our loadings. Mm-hmm. So.
And I don't want that to be taken as a negative thing. I think the college growing is great for our community, and we'll be able to handle it. But it is
right.
The loads have gone up, which is a good thing.
That's part of the equation. We all know there's going to be development. It's maybe going a little quicker, than we thought it would, but it's happening. So it's just we just need to accommodate for that. And if we can do it in the same footprint we have now, I think it's a good trade-off. So.
Yeah. And Mark saw that last week. So Mark took the utility tour last week. He saw what we're talking about. I know a number of you are coming this week to do the tour, and we'll get to show you the exact ditch we're talking about and where this fine bubble aeration will go in the future to introduce more oxygen into the product. So
right.
You'll get to see that this week.
So the current system has been in place since, I believe, it's 77. So it's, it's got its useful life. There has been some maintenance done and some replacements, but the design was a 77 design. So now there's ways of doing things a lot more efficiently, and that's kind of what we're going to take advantage of. So, any other questions? Be happy to answer them. Okay.
Thanks a lot, Ron. Appreciate it. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Ron. Yeah, Ron does a great job down there keeping track of things, doing all the reporting, doing all the monitoring, the spreadsheets, and does a great job with all of that. And the B rating on that one category is a little bit out of our control, but Ron's recognized it, and we're going to be hitting it head on. And the next 2 years, we should have that rectified as well.
Thank you, Ron.
So we have a resolution regarding review of the CMR in front of us. Does anybody have any discussion on it? Have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
All those in favor of approving the resolution, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same. Resolution passes. And number 4 in the packet is a resolution recommending award for the 2018-2020 directional boring contract.
Yeah, there are 2 contracts here, and You know, when Wayne and I were talking again today, and I said it might be a little bit confusing of why the two separate contracts for what looks like a very similar project. So Wayne is just going to give the explanation why there's two separate bids here. We were able to save a little over $80,000 by separating them out, but Wayne wants to give that explanation of why the two different companies and why the two different bids. Wayne?
Well, good evening. But at first, I thought, put them together would be the best beneficial for the utility. But after thinking about it being two different projects, I was concerned about the companies that possibly were bidding on it, and being the one on Winter Street's a more of a bigger project, more product needs to go on the ground with a bigger pipe. That it might be more. Specialized. Yep. So, and then we were able to keep our current company with our cable replacement project, directional boring as well. So I thought it was kind of a win-win for City of River Falls and utilities, and that was kind of the thought process behind it.
Yeah, and you can see, so one of these is specifically Winter Street, and one is a bunch of little projects all around town.
Correct. And them little projects are our cable replacement for 2018, 19, and 20. 19 and 20 hasn't been determined on the cable replacement. It's going to depend on need as we head into 2019 and 2020. And them numbers are kind of guesstimates on what we've replaced in the last couple of years in the city.
So yeah, so the first one is for TD&I Cable. Who won that bid? And the second one is Push Inc.
Push Inc., yes.
That received the bid.
Yeah, TD.
So I talked briefly about it, but separating those two out, you were able to save the utilities some money on those two bids, correct?
Correct. Yeah, you can see the difference in that one on Winter Street is over $80,000 in savings. I actually thought the Push one, they forgot the pipe in the quote, but after contacting them, the pipe is included. So TD&I was kind of surprised of their how cheap they quoted it. So.
And they're a reputable company. You know the company.
Yes. Yeah. Push has been working for other utilities in the state, so I've heard of them and not worked with them personally, but with other utilities. Yeah, reputable company. Do good work from everybody else I've talked to.
So yeah, well, good job splitting those up. I know that you had a little bit of hesitation whether or not to do that, but I think it's worked out on the dollar wise, and we're going to find out if Push Inc. can perform for
Correct.
that price. So
Yep, for sure.
we do feel confident that they can. Otherwise, we would not be selecting them.
Absolutely.
So, Adam, in front of you have two separate resolutions. The first one for TD&I, the second one for Push Inc. So,
Yep.
it's up
Let's
to
do
you.
one at a time.
Any more questions for Wayne?
I have a question, Adam. Wayne, I was just curious if, I'm not that knowledgeable about I know the directional boring and how that works, and
Yep.
we're talking about fiber and electric and stuff, but how does this affect the residents? Do they know, other than physically seeing something out near their street, do they know something's going on?
They will once we get through this process. We'll start letting letters and postcards and get the community education out there so that they know that this is going on in their neighborhood.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's not a big issue for them. They're not gonna.
They should know. Mark, I'll just
But,
come clean on this. So we had one last year where we didn't notify a couple neighbors.
Yep.
And then we were out in front of their house and left equipment and they weren't happy. And that's not our standard. And Wayne and his guys know that. So
Yep.
we go out ahead of time. We educate these people. We leave them door hangers. We leave them letters. We notify them that we're going to be in their neighborhood. We might be boring right past their house and they might not even know it. But we also might be digging an entry pit in front of someone's house and have a machine there or leave a piece of equipment in the right of way.
Right.
So they need to know. And we're going the extra mile now to make sure every single person along that route knows what's going on.
No surprises.
No surprises.
That's good. Yep. Thanks, Kim.
Yeah.
Thanks, Wayne.
It takes a little bit longer to do that and getting it, but in the long run, it's a lot easier for the customers and the neighborhood as well. So.
Okay.
Any other questions at all? Look for a motion to approve the resolution.
We're doing this one at a time, correct?
One at a time.
All right. I make a motion on number 4 to recommend the directional boring contract to, the first one is TD&I. Right?
Second.
Any discussion at all? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same. Resolution for the 2018-2020 directional boring contract is approved. And we also have the resolution recommending the Winter Street directional boring contract in front of us.
I make a motion to approve the Winter Street directional boring to push.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same. Resolution for the Winter Street directional boring is approved. Moving on, we have the finance report along with utility dashboards and monthly utility report. Actually, probably just 6 and 7.
Sue is here to give a brief finance report.
Hi. The electric utility had year-to-date revenues as of May 31st of $5.4 million, and the expenses were $5.3 with a net income of $114,000. The water utility revenues were $748,000, and expenses were $784,000, which was a loss of $36,000. Part of that loss is the incubator donation that was shared with the water. Sewer revenues were $1.4 million and expenses were $997,000 with a net income of $400,000. Stormwater revenues were $237,000 and expenses were $222,000 with a net income of $15,000. So as you know, you probably know the council approved the bond that went through for the electric utility. And when they do the bond, they do a rating. So I don't know if you know that the rating for the electric utility actually went up from an A2 back in 2009 to an A1. And we also had a water utility new rating that also went up from an AA2 to an AA3. Just want you to be aware of that.
Awesome.
Some of that higher rating allowed us to borrow a little less money. It was a several $100,000 savings, so we had planned on,
We borrowed $2.5 million at an interest rate of 2.81 instead of the projected 2.6 at 3.47.
so we improved that interest rate quite a bit with that higher rating, which is nice.
Nice.
And the electric utility is a 10-year bond, so that'll be paid off in 10 years. And that is our only loan that we have right now. We were debt-free until last Tuesday.
Okay.
Any other questions for Sue? Our finance report? I know, just to reiterate the obvious, we're a little bit behind, but this is our time of the year when we start catching up, if it stops raining.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions on the finance report or the utility dashboards? Do you want to run through them, or you want to just take questions on them? Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing unusual or nothing that really stands out that I need to point out that's an anomaly or anything like that, so. I would just say at the electric utility, we continue to focus on economic development. We think it's important for load growth. We think it's important for the community. I think it's important for jobs and tax base. So, we do have a department that helps people conserve energy, and we think that's important. So our load growth will come through trying to assist our community and through economic development. Let's make that statement. That's
Great. Does anybody have any
No,
questions?
I don't have any much else to add. I could just give some general comments. I know, like I said, Mark came on our utility tour last week. A few of you are coming this week, and hopefully you enjoyed the tour, Mark, and can maybe let these guys know what they're in for.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit before the meeting started, but I actually was quite impressed. Ron and Greg were involved in that, and I was quite impressed. I didn't know a lot about even the treatment plant, and to see the details and the what goes in to that and the lab work, and we do our own lab work here instead of sending it off. The treatment plant, and just how clean and how efficient everything seemed to run. And the wells, I guess I found a few new wells that I didn't know about. We have 6 of them, and yeah, it was well worth my time that Kevin and Lene took, and Greg took, and anybody else who was involved took to take me around town and show me some stuff. So yeah, I think you guys will be Very impressed. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark. I'm glad you went, and we encourage everybody to go if they want, so.
All right.
I don't have much else to add. Am I missing anything, Ron or Wayne, that folks need to know about right now? So, working with FERC, I have one more meeting with FERC tomorrow to talk about our relicensing process. That might be something kind of interesting. Met with them a couple weeks ago on the phone and gave them a few scenarios. We talked to FERC on the phone, they have a 40-year relicensing process for relicensing our hydros. Well, you folks and our city council and the Kinney Corridor Committee said we're going to decommission one of those in 2026 and the other one between 2035 and 2040. And those scenarios don't fit into anything that FERC has. So they're trying to figure out how to make that happen. The good news in our very first phone conversation with FERC, they were open to figuring out how to make that work outside of regular processes. So it's a little more open than they have been in the past. They were going to meet last week as staff, and then tomorrow, or I think maybe it's Wednesday, we're meeting with them again on the phone and to discuss what they're thinking the best route is to get accomplished what our city council and you folks are directing them to do. So stay tuned on that. Fun stuff. Other than that, I don't have much else tonight. What do you have?
You want to just recap the WPPI meeting?
Oh, yeah, I can talk about that. So some of you also attended
Your role on the WPPI?
Oh, yeah. That's also good, too. So some of you were able to attend the WPPI regional meeting. WPPI Energy sent up 4 folks, including the CEO, and last Thursday night, and Adam was able to attend. And thanks for Kevin was there. Yeah, and thanks you guys for coming. But they talked exactly about their role as our wholesale power provider and what they do to provide us electrons, our contract with them. And Adam mentioned, maybe I should mention that I'm on their executive committee. There's 11 of us from 51 communities who sit down and help derive their policies that affect all the communities. So they have a great staff of a little over 100 people that provide us electricity in a pretty responsible way. And one thing they had mentioned, we won't decide this tonight, but I'll let you think about it. They invited us down, so maybe in October or something, if we want to have this meeting down there, like on a Wednesday night, you'd have to take a half day off work. We'd go down there, have this meeting. They'll bring dinner in, they said. And if you want to stay, you could stay for the executive team meeting if you want to witness that on a Thursday morning. If somebody wanted to drive back that night, they could do that as well. I'm just throwing that idea out there. I think it might be interesting to get a tour of WPPI. If you want to stay for the executive team meeting to see what goes on and who these folks are. But we don't have to either. If it's too cumbersome in your busy lives, we don't have to do that. But it's something, maybe in October we could consider, going down there on a Wednesday and taking a couple city cars. And if you want to come back, come back. If you want to stay, we could stay. So noodle on that. Maybe we'll revisit that next month and make a decision if that's something that you think would interest you or not. But, it's a 3.5-hour ride down there. But it's kind of interesting. And they'd give you a nice dinner and whatnot. So. Anyway, I just appreciate your interest. I mean, that's interest in that. That's another piece of our puzzle of what we do. And we can feel confident with them that they're doing a nice job with wholesale power purchasing and delivery and a bunch of services.
Perfect. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it. Does anybody else have any announcements? Motion to adjourn?
We were due for a short one.
I know. This is my second shortest one ever. I think I had a 15-minute one in there a couple of years ago.
Move to adjourn.
We are adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Mm-hmm.